That is footage of a crowd cheering as they greet Iranian rock climber Elnaz Rekabi as she returned to the country. We had talked about this case earlier this week. She had been competing in South Korea without her hijab on, and considering the situation in Iran and the violence against people, especially women, defying the regime in that particular way, there's been a lot of concern about her safety. Now, people were excited that she returned. It took a while for us to get an actual statement from her. Here's a little bit of an interview she took part in.
This situation happened entirely accidentally. The struggle that I had with wearing my shoes and preparing my gear made me forget about the proper hijab that I should have had. I apologize to the people of Iran and for the turbulence and worry that I created for them.
The pro athlete's words reiterating an earlier apology shared on her Instagram page. Though some human rights organizations have expressed concern that Rekabi may have been speaking under duress.
So look, it is great to see her able to conduct an interview. That is great. It leaves me wondering the same thing that was referenced in that news report. In the same way that text-only response early on certainly seems like it could have been under duress. The fact that she's saying this in an interview doesn't mean that any of it's true. It doesn't mean that it's not true. It's hard for us to say. More importantly, while she appeared in that interview right now, there are still a lot of concerns about her safety going forward. And my special concerns are, now that she's been on video, if the media turns away from this, is the regime potentially going to feel free to do whatever it is that they might want to do? It's impossible to say at this point, but I remain very concerned. AB, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm also really concerned, right? And you see how she just stressed the fact that it wasn't her intent, and she's really sorry because they understand the implications of what this is, and this is exactly why they're out there protesting in Iran, right? Because women are being murdered at this point over their head wraps, their headscarves. And so I am just praying for her safety. I hope we don't let this fall by the wayside because it could be a real serious issue. And I think this also goes to show the difference between the criminal system and how quote unquote crimes are treated across the globe compared to here in America, right? Where even though she's saying she doesn't have an intent, that may not be enough to protect her with the way the regime is going out there. So I hope we keep a close eye on this one.
Yeah, 100%. By the way, earlier this week, the IOC said that they held a joint meeting about this with including Iranian officials. They said it received clear assurances that Ms. Rekabi will not suffer any consequences and will continue to train and compete. And the president of Iran's Pacific National Olympic Committee says that she's not going to be punished. And to that I say, that is good, and also that is not nearly good enough. The idea that you would have a rule that thankfully, mercifully, you're not going to imprison her or beat her or torture her or kill her, still leaves you with a rule that should never have existed at all. And it's not up to me. I don't live in Iran. The people of Iran are going to determine their own destiny. But I personally think a great rule to have going forward is that any person, 99% of whom are going to be men, that would even start a rule that determines what head covering a woman has to have when she's competing in rock climbing thousands of miles away, they should be spending time in prison because you're out of your mind and you cannot be trusted with government power. This is a sick system, even if in this particular case, they're not going to kill this woman. And by the way, God only knows what they would have done if there hadn't been an international outcry about this particular case. After all, many people have been killed in Iran for protesting in the exact same way as Elnaz. So you've already killed hundreds of people. We're not gonna give you a ton of credit just because you're not actively trying to kill this one while the cameras are on her. Any other thoughts, AB?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, they've already killed hundreds of people behind this rule, right? And this is the thing, is that you are seeing both men and women get behind this protest, right? Which makes it even stronger, is that even the men in Iran are saying, we don't believe that this should be the case for the women here, right? They deserve to be respected a little more than this. And they are joining forces on both sides. And part of the issue is that the regime is just old and it's outdated, right? And the women are not saying we don't want to wear our hijabs, we just don't want to die if we don't, right? We shouldn't be punished and put in prison and die for just being a normal person, right? Or doing what other people do. We're not disrespecting the process in general. We're not saying that we want to get rid of it. What we're saying is our lives we should not die behind it. And we have seen young people continue to die behind this law and this rule.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.